welcome back to the workshop. In today's video, we're going to do a cosmetic restoration of the Kennedy Hexacut powered hacksaw. I bought this quite a few years ago now, and it arrived in a very sorry state, and I think I'd like to just make it look a little bit nicer. So let's get to it. One of the things I did notice about the base when I was taking it apart, I'm not sure if that was clear in the time lapse, but the saw assembly was definitely on crooked, and I'm fairly certain that is the reason for the belt being off to one side. The whole saw assembly was rotated like so, which would then mean it would have pulled the belt in that direction, So what we can do is rotate it back this way, which should bring the belt back onto the crown of the main pulley, which is here. So there's the disassembly of the Kennedy Hexacut. It's just increasingly bizarre. Like, you can see, for example, here, where the person who painted this in this awful green colour has taken off the saw assembly and painted underneath it. So they've obviously taken it apart to paint it, which indicates a degree of care, you know, as opposed to just slapping some paint on and leaving it. But the finish is so bad on it, and the parts are so rusty, it just seems like a really odd choice. Anyway, Kennedy explicitly say do not remove the motor from the base under any circumstances. So I am going to heed that advice. I'm going to try and get this motor repainted and the base stripped without taking the motor off. I have to cover up all of the apertures and things and figure out how I'm going to do that. That might just be a sandpaper job, I think, rather than going with chemicals, but we'll see. And here's all the bits and bobs. So there's going to be a good deal of wire wheels and de-rusting and degreasing and a bunch of other stuff. So I think I'm going to crack on with that, to be honest. There are a lot of channels that do restorations far better than I do, but I'll bring you back in when and if there is machining to do for the parts. So here we go. On the guide for the saw, you can see there's this black section here, and this should be plain steel, but as you can see, there's actually quite a lot of wear there. I don't think this is materially affecting the saw particularly. Obviously, wear is no good, but I will, when I get this all off back to bare metal, I will see exactly the condition of it. One thing I did notice is the actual saw bearing, which I have mostly cleaned up. You can see this is one of those running sides with that same kind of tarnishing on it. One of these was very, very loose indeed, so the saw was probably rocking like so. I have attempted to do a bit of mechanical paint removal on these parts, and I wasn't all that successful. It's very tough paint, and when trying to remove it, I ended up doing a lot of scratching onto the underlying surface. I don't know if that's because the part I was trying it on was cast aluminium instead of steel, but we will see. So I'm going to put all these in paint stripper and see what happens. So here are all the fasteners that have been wiped up, about to be degreased, and then chuck into some rust converter. It's looking a lot better, isn't it? Right, there's a bunch of steel and aluminium parts which are now, well, they were all in the evaporust, but I think they're all in much better condition now. There are a few things that definitely are going to need some polishing. For example, the end of this is still very corroded. It's now converted to iron 3 oxide or whatever that black stuff is, which, so it's inert, but it's very rough indeed, and I think we could do better. So I'll see what I can do with that. Over here you can see the vice jaw. This is the movable jaw of a vice, and what's really obvious is this indent in here. So this is the base of the vice, this is the top side of the vice, and this is the front, the actual clamping section. And it's got a big line through here. And it seems to be about 1/2 inch up from the bottom, so I'm assuming it's inch, and I'm assuming basically someone's just keep cranking over and over, and that's what this machine has been doing. It's been cutting inch bar, round bar over and over again, and it's actually created an indent in here. So I've been draw filing, admittedly without a mill file, to try and keep this flat, but also remove this indent. And as you can see, I've made some progress. You see a lot of the swarf around here, but this is going to need some more work. This is the paint remover I'm going to try using on the Hexacut. It allegedly slips. Yeah. This is the paint stripper I'm going to try and use on the Hexacut. I tried a spot on the corner of the assembly over there a little while ago and it worked okay, so I'm hoping it should be fine. It does say here it does emulsion, which I think is what this is, so let's see what happens. I don't know if you can see, but I haven't even finished applying it to all the parts and it's already doing great work. So I'm going to come back in 10 minutes, give it another coat, and then I will come back in an hour and get it all off, hopefully. Right, let's come back in an hour or so, get this all cleaned off, and job's good. So I found that there's quite a lot of roughness in these castings. You can see the line across here, for example, where the two halves of the mould have been put together, and there's been a bit of flash there. That hasn't been cleaned up, and surfaces like this are actually quite rough. So I have a feeling that's probably how it's been since it was made. So I'm taking this opportunity to try and tart it up a little bit. So right now I'm using a file, but it will, once I've got that surface down nice and clean, it will no doubt be done using various grades of wet and dry and this kind of stuff. So hopefully these are going to start looking good. I've got a lot of it stripped already. You can see there's quite a bit of tarnishing there. It looks like this has been very rusty and someone has used rust converter on it before, and then not happy with the result, they've gone straight over it with that really thick paint to try and hide this. I'm hoping that I can get this back into a reasonable condition, because I don't think many of the bearing surfaces are anywhere near as bad, as you can see here. So let's see. So I think I've got most of these cleaned up. All the little fastenings are in a separate box, and these are the painted pieces which I've stripped. And yeah, you can really see there's corrosion on this steel that has been neutralized, but I can only think that's the reason why it's been painted at some point. So I don't think I can get rid of all of this, but I think what I probably will try and do is wire brush it or braid it and get that out, or get it neutralized and get this looking a bit nicer. You can see the construction here where this hex bar has been welded at the front here, but then it's been cast into the arm assembly here. Same thing for these bearings. I think this has been cast around them rather than them being pushed in. But I might be able to push them out, but I think actually they're not particularly worn. This is the shaft. There's the tiniest bit of movement there, but really not much at all. So I think actually these are in relatively good condition. It's just this rust on these surfaces here. I could probably clean the top up, to be honest, because that's not a functional surface. This section isn't it, at least. Underneath it doesn't look too bad either. So here's the motor assembly. This is an original Hoover motor, and you can see here that it's 1.6 amps, 1/6 of a horsepower, and compared to the other aspects that are a bit strange about this machine, you can see here that they didn't bother taking this plate off, even though it's screwed rather than riveted, before whacking this load of paint over the top. I'm a bit concerned about using paint stripper on this section, so what I may do for the motor is just key it and then paint over the top. First coat of the Craftmaster High Build undercoat. I'll be doing 2 coats of this, 2 coats of enamel over the top. I might do grey, might do green, probably grey, same as the pillar tool, but it's looking so much better already. Here's got the first coat of primer and the first coat of that high build undercoat on these. Looking quite nice, I think. I can't wait to see what the final colour looks like. And here's the first coat of that Myford grey. Strictly speaking, almost none of it should be painted, but when the condition of the metal was so bad, I didn't really have much of an option unless I wanted it to look really rough. Hopefully it'll be a nice compromise. The parts are slowly coming back together. The last piece to do is this base here, which will require a couple of coats of undercoat and a couple of coats of top coat, so won't be done for a few more days. Other than that, I think it's starting to look pretty good. Right, that is the Kennedy Hexacut reassembled. I've got it all painted where it wants to be painted. I've got it raw metal where I want it to be raw metal. I did manage to save the Hoover motor badge on the back here, which I'm quite pleased at, and it's very little evidence of that green emulsion on it. There are a few things which are still missing. I need some 1/4 inch Whitworth cap head screws for the clamps over here, and I need a new belt, and those are still in the post, but I don't think they materially change the saw. It's nothing you haven't seen, so I think I'm going to draw this video to a close.